Hi, everyone. So my name is Caitlin. I'm one of the founders of Leap, and welcome to today's webinar. Today, we're talking about achieving money harmony with your partner. So we're going to talk about what this looks like because money harmony is a thing. I've been married for 19 years. And even though this is my career field and this is what I do, the financial stress and the financial conflicts are still one of the main conflicts that I have in my marriage personally. My husband, I'm sure, would say the same thing, right? So even though we know what to do, sometimes money conflicts still cause frustrations with the marriage and within couples and relationships. And we want to make sure we can do things to offset them, especially when we're expecting a little one or we have a little one at home, because this is a period of time when there's lots of changes going on, lots of things are happening, no expenses coming, possible loss of income, all these different things. And we don't want to add financial stress to a time when there's already so much other stuff going on. So we're going to talk about achieving money harmony with your partner and things you can do to kind of be proactive about having a healthy relationship with money. Okay, so today we're going to cover how money impacts relationships, right? Because if you are someone who fights with your partner over money and financial issues, you are not alone. This is a very common thing, right? Then we're going to talk about money mindsets, the common money mindsets that people have, because it's really important to understand what everyone's mindset is when you're coming into a conversation so you kind of can hear it through that lens, right? After that, we're going to talk about communicating about money, how those communications should look and how those conversations should go. Then we're going to talk about creating a budget together, managing conflict and financial stress. And then we're going to talk about some next steps you can do to have those healthy money conversations. All right. These are some common money personalities that we see. Now, what I want you to keep in mind is that no one is only one of these personalities. We're all a mixture of all four of these personalities. The question is kind of which one do you lead with, right? So if you think you have your partner pegged, you probably don't. My husband, like I said, we've been married 19 years, a long time. I still don't have him pegged, right? And he still doesn't have me pegged. We're kind of a mixture of these four different personalities. And like I said, it's just a question of which one are you leading with within this particular season in life, right? So the first one is a spender. The money spender is the person who cash hits their pocket or the paycheck hits their checking account and they are just looking to spend it. They want to go out, they want to have fun, they want to just, get rid of the money and, you only live once, right? So those are the money spenders. Money savers, on the other hand, are the people who just want to hoard every single dollar. They're nervous to spend anything. They don't really know what they want to do with the money. It's not like the money has a job to do. They just want to hold it in their accounts and kind of like hold on to it real tight, right? After that, we have money avoiders. These are people who just don't want to talk about money. These, it's not that they're like trying to avoid, or they're trying to be obnoxious about it, but these are the ones who you're trying to have a money conversation with them and they crack a joke because they're trying to distract you from whatever the conversation is that you're trying to have. So money avoiders are people who just don't want to think about money. The money conversation gets them anxious and they do whatever they can do to change the topic. Okay. And then money planners. Money planners are the people who just sit there and always have a plan for the dollar, right? Whether it's they want to invest or they want to, do whatever X, Y, and Z with it. Money planners are people who really enjoy thinking about money and what they would do with it, right? So these are not the ones who think about necessarily what would I would do if I won the lotto, because we all think about that. That's a fun thought. But these are the people who, they know that they want certain percentage in this account, a certain percentage for their emergency fund, and a certain percentage for spending. So these are the people who just enjoy thinking about and planning for their dollars. So like I said, we are not just one of these. We are a combination of all four. The question is, which one do you lead with and which one does your partner lead with? Our money personalities are formed really in our youth. Once we have them, like I said, we have these tendencies, but we may shift, which one we're leading with depending on the season of life that we're in. So for example, women who are about to have children may really shift into that saver mode because you get really nervous out of the blue, right? And you're thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to provide for this baby? So even though you may have been a spender, in your younger years, you may shift into that saver mentality. So, like I said, just kind of give thought to where you are, which money personality you lead with, maybe what your secondary one is, and think about your partner and which one they lead with, and how that would inform your discussions of money with them. Okay, actually, I want to go back for a second because what I want to talk about right now is the statistics about relationships and money. So, we all think that our money conversations are unique to our relationship and that we're the only ones that can't get our act together, right? Everyone else seems to be able to communicate about money, or maybe they, have a better, it looks to us like they have a better, just conversations about money. And we're like, what are we doing wrong? But the answer is, most couples deal with financial stress and financial conflict in some capacity. Okay. So actually, money is the leading cause of stress in relationships. 74% of couples report that financial stress has caused tension in their relationship. And that's according to the American Psychological Association in the year 2023. So 74%. I'm surprised it's not higher. Right. 74% is a lot, but I think it's actually higher than that. It's probably the people who just aren't thinking to report it. Also, different spending habits cause tension. 60% of couples say they have different saving and spending habits leading to conflict. And that is from the TD Bank and Love Money survey in 2021. So we all have different spending habits, and that is going to cause tension, especially in a period of time when you're having to spend more money, like when little ones are home, right? Or when you're expecting a little one. Debt creates relationship strain. 86% of Americans who have been in a serious relationship say debt has a negative impact on their relationship. And that's from the National Foundation for Credit Counseling in 2023. So that's nearly 90% of people who have debt say that debt is causing a strain, right? Does that resonate with everyone? I'm sure it does, right? And then financial disagreements start early. Nearly half of young couples say they started arguing about money within the first year of their relationship. So it starts quick, right? And we develop these habits, we develop these conversational patterns with the person we're with. And we follow these patterns for years and years and years, not realizing they're even a pattern. I'm sure this kind of resonates with all of us, that when you get into a money disagreement and a money fight, we have this banter back and forth that we don't even think about. We just kind of jump into the comfortable relationship, the comfortable conversation pattern that we have about money, right? Without even giving it much thought as to, is this moving us forward? Is this really what we want to talk about? Is this benefiting us and our family? We just jump into what we know, which is our conversational patterns. So it's important that we're aware of the fact that most couples have money conflicts, right? So it's not that it makes it easy or it makes it right to have these money conflicts, but you are not alone, right? Couples have to navigate this. And there's a lot of great resources out you to figure this out, to make sure these conversations are more proactive and working you towards your shared goal. All right, so going back to the slide then, communicating about money. Excuse me. When we communicate about money, it's really important that we have open and honest conversations, that we not just that we're not covering up anything. We're not hiding, a purchase that we made. We don't have any secret accounts that would be really detrimental to the relationship. That's something we call financial infidelity, and financial infidelity can actually be as cutting as physical infidelity. So it's really important that our money conversations are open and honest. Okay. It's also important that we be aware of our partner's money tendencies and approach those with empathy. So our money tendencies, like I said, those are developed in childhood. They're often from our family of origin, how we saw our parents and our caregivers interact with money, right? So you may have a partner who maybe He was, grew up in a single parent household or grew up, with a grandparent or something like that, and saw this grandparent or the single parent really struggle with money. And now your partner is like over scrupulous and is too much of a planner, and it stresses you out because you're someone who maybe didn't grow up in that kind of household. But it's really important that you be aware of what your partner grew up with so you can kind of adjust the conversation accordingly. Your money tendencies are not your partner's money tendencies. I guarantee it. They're just not. Right. And that's kind of what, makes things interesting. But we also need to be aware of the fact that we need to be empathetic towards them, and that they may be tendencies your partner isn't even aware of. They're not even being malicious that they're doing these things. These are just kind of how they know to be with their money, and they kind of go with it. So just be aware of your partner's money tendencies. If your partner is a spender and you know that about them, just have that lens, right? Or if your partner really wants to save money and you really want to push them to make a purchase that you think is going to benefit your household, just know that those money tendencies are something that are really, ingrained to their personalities, and we want to make sure we're sensitive to those. We also want to make sure we set money expectations and boundaries when we have these money conversations. We don't want to let these money conversations go into, attacking someone's family. We don't want these conversations to turn into, I know you're going to do this because your mother did this, right? We don't want those to go there. Those are not helpful. And we want to make sure we have expectations and boundaries around the conversation. We also want to have expectations and boundaries around our money values. So if you had a conversation with your partner about paying down debt, or you really have a shared goal of purchasing a house in how many years, whatever it is, that you set up these boundaries and that you both commit to these boundaries. So if someone does go out of bounds with their spending or something like that, they're already aware of it without you having to even bring it up, right? So we want to make sure we're really clear about having those expectations and boundaries, so we're not just playing the guessing game. When I work with couples who are dealing with a financial stressful situation, or they're expecting a little one, they don't quite know how they're going to, figure it out, I would say probably, a solid 90% of the time, they've never had conversations around these money expectations and boundaries. They're just kind of doing what they've always done. And then, one's going one way, the other is going the other way, and they've never sat down and had this conversation. Having this conversation about the money expectations and the money boundaries are going to set you way further ahead than most couples. I guarantee it. So just getting it out in the open, having this honest conversation is going to be life-changing for you. Believe me, it's amazing. And if you haven't had this conversation yet and you wonder why you're all stressed, this is probably the reason why, because you haven't talked about it yet. So you're living in your head, your partner's living in their head, and you're wondering why your partner's not doing what you want them to do. Well, it's because you were never clear about it, right? And you never had this conversation with them. So set those expectations, set those boundaries, do it in an open and honest manner, and just approach it with empathy, right? Good ways to start. Okay. So when it comes to creating a budget together, a spending plan together, what does this look like? Well, the first thing I want you to be aware of is your relationship status is the starting point for how much of your budget is going to be shared. I often see this, and I don't love it. I don't love it at all. It's when someone is dating and they're co-parenting, right? And then first of all, there's a few different ways they go. Either they don't have a money conversation, they get really mad that the other co-parent isn't, on the same page, or they go all in and basically act like a married couple with shared accounts and everything. And then when things go off the rails, it's a lot to just kind of take apart, right? So if you are not yet married, I want to make sure you know that you are going to have combined expenses for your children or your child, and you're going to have to decide who pays for what. But I don't want you sharing accounts yet. It's too much. Or if you do have one shared account, it is only for your child's expenses, not your personal spending or your rent money or anything like that. So just know that we want to make sure we treat our relationship status and our money appropriately. So if we are dating and we're not yet married, we're not going all in with our finances, okay? Because if you are not yet married, that tells us that there's still trust to be earned, and I don't want you giving them access to all your money, quite frankly, right? It's not going to be good for you. So if you are dating and co-parenting, maybe have a shared account for your child expenses, and that's it. And you need to sit down and fairly decide the expenses for the child and how much each one is going to contribute. And this is if we don't have like a court order in place, right? So this is for people who are trying to do it on their own. If you are engaged, you may want to start the process of combining finances, but set those financial goals together, because if you are engaged, you do have a long-term time horizon, which is hopefully forever with this person, right? And you want to make sure you have shared goals, you have those conversations, but we're not probably combining our accounts yet, because again, we're not yet married and we don't want to do that. Once you add someone onto your account, you're giving them full access to your account. It doesn't matter if you had a verbal agreement that they were supposed to pay rent. If they give that money to someone else or they spend it on something that you didn't authorize, doesn't matter. You gave them access when you put them on the account. So don't do that until you're married. Okay. And then when it comes to married couples, I want you to budget as a team. I want you to plan for your future, and I want you to handle those financial challenges together and have those co-accounts, right? We want to make sure at that point, because legally you're financially commingled anyways, you might as well simplify things with your finances. Something I will say, I get this a lot, is, we want to be married, but I don't trust him with the money, or I don't want to put him on my account or something like that. If you don't trust your partner to put them on your account, you shouldn't be married. Like, bottom line, because really the courts look at your money as, depending on the state, the courts look at your money differently once you're married. And if you don't feel comfortable putting them on your accounts, that tells you something, right? So we want to make sure whatever stage of relationship we're in, we are honoring that, and we are not jumping the gun and putting our names on all of our accounts, and then something happens and then it's going to be a lot to untwine. All right. So yeah, your relationship status is going to determine how much of your budget is shared. Spending plans should always be a team effort. You can have one person designated as like the implementer of the plan, right? So the person who pulls out the cash, the person who, tracks the expenses, all those different things. But the planning itself needs to be done together. I see this a lot where we have one person who is seen as the one who's good with money, and we have the other person who's seen as the person who just wants to go along to get along. And then the person who's good with money makes all the plans, and then they wonder why the other person isn't following the plans, because there's no ownership in the plan, right? We want to make sure these plans are made together, and these are a team effort. I don't care if you have one person leading the charge in terms of implementing it. I get that. The person who pays the bills, the person who checks the accounts, that's fine. But the plans need to be made together. All right. We also want to make sure we expect some different spending priorities. That's, it's just going to happen. One person may think that, we need to get the super expensive stroller that has all the bells and whistles. And the other person says, hey, my mom had an umbrella stroller that was $10 from Walmart and it works just fine. So just know that you're going to have different spending priorities, and that's fine. Talk it through, have those conversations. And it's not a matter of winning or losing. It's a matter of, negotiating, but getting it out there and just determining why one person thinks they do. Maybe you can convince your partner. Maybe you'll be convinced. I'm not quite sure what the situation is, but just know those spending priorities will be different no matter how compatible you are. It's just the way it is. All right. So when it comes to managing conflict and financial stress, the biggest thing I want you to know is that financial conversations and managing this financial stress, the most important thing you can do is to be proactive. Have a monthly or weekly, if you're a paycheck budgeter, like our Bland paycheck budget, having a paycheck spending meeting, and just go over, last pay period's expenses, this pay period's expenses, make a plan, sit down together. That proactive meeting, when you sit down together and make the plan, is going to probably offset about 80% of your financial conflicts. Where we see most financial conflicts coming into play is when you did not have that proactive meeting. Because again, both people are operating in their own heads and they're not communicating with the other, and they're telling themselves stories about what the other person is thinking and the other person is doing. Proactivity is going to be your friend here. Have that meeting in advance, make a plan, stick to it. Okay. Once those things are out there, and it heads off so many money conflicts, interpersonal conflicts, all that stuff. So the biggest thing I can say is have that proactive plan. Now, hypothetically, you already had that proactive meeting, the proactive plan, and there's still some kind of conflict. Maybe something came up, there was an amazing sale on some item you wanted to buy, and maybe your partner thought you're going to buy it in like 6 or 8 months after you had all that time to save up for it. And you see that if you don't buy it now, you're not going to save, 40%, whatever it's marked off for this sale. Those conflicts will happen because life is dynamic. So many things, go on. These things are not static. So when you have those conflicts, it's really important that you just sit down together, have that conversation. And it's going to be give and take, right? Sometimes your partner's going to hear you more. Other times it's going to be you that kind of, leads the charge here. But like I said, biggest thing is proactive conversations. And then the next thing is just sit down and have these conversations rather than just doing something and then having your partner get mad at you, right? All right. So next steps. What can we do to have these money conversations? I want you to download your BLAM action guide and commit to working on one lesson per week with your partner until BLAM is complete. Okay, one lesson per week. It's going to walk you through all the steps of creating a spending plan and getting these things out there. Sunlight's the best disinfectant, so have these conversations with your partner. Also, next steps is the plan has to have both parties buy in. I keep saying this, you both have to be bought into the plan. You cannot just have one person make the plan, the other person following it. It's not going to work. I've never seen it work. On your BLAM action guide, we have the LEAP money map. We want you to look at where you are at the money map, because that's going to tell us what your next step is going to be, or your next leap, right? And that's going to tell us what we need to do to get you towards financial stability and eventually building wealth as a couple. All right, any questions, please reach out to us at leappersonalfinance.org. Email us at info@leappersonalfinance. If you're on the Leap app, message us within the tab all of us are there to answer your questions. We all have accreditation certifications. They're willing to help. We also have our Leap phone number, 702-381-1712. Feel free to call us and we'll be happy to answer your questions. We're a minute and a half over, not so bad for today. But yeah, anything, reach out to us at Leap. We are happy to help. But money harmony is possible with your partner. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a matter of having shared goals, share plan, share values, and you'll be good to go. All right, that's it for today. I'll see you all soon at our next webinar, and have a great one. Bye.